Well, it's a nice morning now. Mild. Bit of a breeze. Wouldn't have said it was a nice morning 20 minutes ago, because it was a lashing it down with rain then. But now the sun's out. I'm looking over there. There's more showers to come. So I'd best get a move on. And this delightful autumnal scene is on the northern edge of Budby South Forest. I'm having a quick walk up here, and then I'll probably cut down through the heath. I'm just after taking some photographs to show the difference in heather coverage and comparing it to how it was to how it is now. All is not well at Budby. And here's a beauty, and an edible beauty as well. This is Belites, and this is known as the penny bun. And it's pretty obviously named really, because the top of it looks like a bun. Very sought after, and there's a clump of them here. And this one in front of me is well over 6 inches in width. And there's another one near my elbow which is about 8 inches in width. And there's some smaller ones accompanying them. If I just move these leaves here, you can see the stem. You can also sort of compare it to my hand. A cracking thing. These are some of the best I've seen actually, and they've been untouched by slugs. And I've never tasted one, but I might do later on. I might pick one of these on the way back. Nice that down the edge of Budby, and these mature oaks on the left of your screen, there's a couple of robins doing that typical autumn twittering. It's a lovely call, robin. Used to be known as the sodium songster because of its penchant, for want of a better word, of singing through the night, when the only light was by the old orange sodium lights, which have now done away with. A pheasant, not so much a sodium songster, more a ploughed field screecher. But yeah, robins, it's lots of people, yeah, even in winter robins will often sing in the early hours of the morning if they happen to be roosting near a street light. And I wonder whether they still do it with today's more energy saving LED lights. There's a bit of research for somebody, for an insomniac. Listen to this. 20th of October. Admittedly, it's mild, but you've got skylarks in full song. Nature never ceases to surprise you. A glimpse of spring there. And at the top of these trees you can get a glimpse of something else. Trouble is, in order to see it, you've got to wait till it falls on the floor. Prepare to be excited. Green islands. Now, you might say, well, so what? It's just a bit of green leaf. Yes, it is a green leaf, or a bit of green leaf, on an otherwise completely brown leaf. But looking for fallen leaves of oak that have these green islands in can lead you to the discovery of two leaf miners. Both ectodemias, and if I can remember the names offhand, one is Ectodemia subimmaculella and the other is Ectodemia herringi. Herringi isn't very common at Sherwood, and it's certainly not as common as subimmaculella, which is, you know, one of, well, certainly the commoner of the two. And this one here, this green area, has the mine of one of the ectodemias. I think it might be herringi, which mines between October and November. So even when you get to late into the year, the latter months of the year, it's worth looking out for these and for the mines of these on oak leaves that have fallen on the floor. And this one is occupied, and there is a larva in it, and it's one of the two species that I've mentioned. It's either Ectodemia subimmaculella or Ectodemia herringi. I've took some photos, but I need to have a proper look at the head and just some of the characteristics of the mine. But it does form a small gallery mine that eventually leads into a blotch, and the blotch usually obliterates the gallery mine, to be honest. And there is no slit in the lower epidermis of the leaves, which also helps to distinguish the two species, because that slit enables all the frass from the larva to fall out. And as you can see, this dark area here within the mine, that is the frass. It's amazing what you can find even on the floor, when it originally started at the top of one of these. Now reach the top of the heath, or the middle, at the main junction, and I just thought I'd pause and allow you to peruse these signs. Quite frankly, it's unbelievable, especially the naturism one. But I suggest what you do is that you pause this anytime while I'm waffling. I can't believe that the RSPB even puts up with naturism. There's no place for naturism. People don't want to see blokes walking around with their bollocks hanging out. Not when you've got kids. Sorry. And the do not pick fungi thing, well, that might as well be written in Martian, because you'll frequently see people walking around with carrier bags and just picking too much. A little for what you need to eat, fair enough. But it's when they're taking carrier bags. I nearly said pinching then, basically that's what it is, I suppose, but they take carrier bags. Well, we've seen, Dillis and I, years ago, we've seen car boot full of fungi. Nothing was left for anyone else. It was obviously being taken for sale. I am going to take a penny bun home with me, but just the one, because that's all I need. There's a group of about 8 down the bottom there, which I've showed you, and it's on the edge of the reserve. Technically it's not in the reserve. So have a pause now, and you can look at this and have a laugh if you want. I find a lot of it funny. I'm just walking further onto the heath, and I'm after one particular viewpoint so I can make the comparison between now and how it was. And I believe it's further, a bit further down here on a ridge. It drops down after about 100 yards here, and I apologise if it's a bit breezy. I'll have to have a word with God next time, unless he's gone to the pub. Well, it's quite a dramatic sky, that. But this is, I think, the view that I've been looking for. So what I'll do, to show you how much the heather has died out, I'll insert the picture here so you can have a look. So here's how this section of Budby South Forest looked a number of years ago, and I'll date the picture. As you can see, the amount of heather. It was taken slightly later in the winter, because the oak tree on the right of the picture wasn't in leaf, but it still shows you it makes no difference to the amount of heather that there was compared to the amount of heather that there is now. And I've said this for many years, and nobody listened. Well, few people listened. This is why, I mean, part of the management plan of this place was to increase the amount of heather from what it was a number of years ago. And the reason is fairly simple, but they won't accept it, because the reason it's deteriorated and the amount of heather has declined is quite simply because of overgrazing, and especially grazing by cattle. The authorities won't accept it, and the management won't accept it, because as far as they're concerned, grazing is the be all and end all of sites, but it isn't. It can be very useful in certain amounts and certain places, but this place used to be considerably overgrazed for too many years. That's why there's been a decline in the number of moths here, especially the grass veneers, which I've mentioned on other videos. But the decline in the amount of heather over the whole of the site, I would say, is at least about 50% offhand. And it's a shame, and it shouldn't happen. been severely affected by a loss of heather. I may well, seeing as I'm this far, I will go up to the tree line, or just before the tree line, take some photos facing this way, because that area in the centre, which is, you know, the grassy area of heath, that was an area that Dillis and I surveyed for Natural England a number of years ago, and it was one of the areas chosen, yeah, to survey. Surveys were quite specific. There's certain rules and guidelines that you were surveyed by. But I've got some photos of that area. They're looking this way, and you'll see the difference. If I find one, and I'll insert one here that you can have a look at. So I think what we need to do now, and say while I'm up here, is I'll traverse this track, and we'll have a wander down there, have a bit of a plod around, and then I'll walk back up the edge of the wood of Budby, and a bit of woodland that there is there, and back to the car. It looks a bit black over Bill's mothers. It's quiet on here today, which is good. It's how I like it. Unless people have seen me, they tend to stay away, you know. That's the way back to the car. I'm nearly at the top. It's alright, I've been stood for about 5 minutes. That's why I'm not so breathless. It'd be nice if the sun came out again, but it has brightened up a little bit. I'm just walking back down to the car, and saw this little chap, and this is, I believe, the Spiny Football. Amongst the puffballs, fairly easy to identify because of the spine-like structures on both the cap and the stem. There are numerous puffballs, very commonly found in Sherwood Forest, but this is one of the lesser commonly found ones. A nice little thing. Not the best of light, but at least you'll be able to appreciate the beauty of the colour of this. And this is, I believe, Lilac Bonnet, which is Mycena pura in old money. Cracking little thing, very common on the woodland floor. Beautiful colour. There are some fabulously coloured fungi, which, now we've had some rain, I might be able to show you some. Amazing things, fungi. But this is Lilac Bonnet. And fungi takes many shapes, sizes and forms. And I've just noticed that this is an old acorn, one of last year's acorns. And I've just spotted this tiny fungi growing on that. It's slightly yellow. No idea what it is, so it's out with the camera. And here's some more Lilac Bonnet in dappled sunlight. There is another species that's very similar, if I remember right. So take my fungi identification lightly in most cases. Looks beautiful though, doesn't it? Now, just on nearly back at the car, just found this caterpillar sat in the grass. Obviously drying up a bit after this morning's rain. And this, I believe, is the caterpillar of the ruby tiger moth. Usually it's much lighter in colour than this. A light sort of fulvous brown, quite attractive. But prior to hibernation in the larval stage, the caterpillar darkens, and this one is considerably darker than the one I found the other day. So that's quite a nice find, and as this one is a bit darker, I've got no photographs of it with this coloration, so out with the camera again. But this larva will overwinter. It'll tuck itself away deep at the base of grasses in amongst the leaf litter, and then in the spring, bit of feeding, and then pupation, and the ruby tigers can appear very early. I've had a sort of ruby tiger, I think, towards the end of April, but usually it's May when the first ones appear. But it's an attractive moth, more attractive than the caterpillar.